disc review is brought to you by Disc Baron Disc Golf. With all the top brands in disc golf, Disc Baron is your one-stop online store and brick-and-mortar disc golf pro shop. Browse their expansive inventory online at discbaron.com or drop into the store in Grand Rapids, Michigan today. At Disc Baron, every disc is weighed and they offer individual pictures of each disc, so you can always be sure you're getting exactly what you want. Plus, they offer free shipping on all orders to the continental United States, and they ship daily. Hey everybody, it's Tori again here from Disc Golf Central. We've got another disc review coming at you today, another part of our summer series. This one is courtesy of Disc Baron, as we just said. Thank you so much to Disc Baron for hooking us up with this stack of Discmania. We've been reviewing it all summer, and this is the latest iteration in that review series. So today we're looking at the Discmania DD2 distance driver. Now, what I'm going to be doing today, I've already thrown this disc a handful of times and I've kind of gotten a feel for it. I'm going to be putting it up against two distance driver molds that I throw pretty consistently and pretty regularly. The first being the Crank. I have a first run ESP crank that has always been pretty neutral to stable for me. I have a Z crank that's always gotten a little bit more turn to it. Then I have two Forces. I have a ESP Force that is a little bit lighter weight at 171 grams. And then I have a big Z Force, which is one of my favorite drivers to throw because it's the most AM friendly run of the Force that they've ever made. AM arm friendly, I should say, lower arm speed friendly. So we're gonna compare that to this DD2. The DD2 was something that was very popular among Discmania throwers up until this DD3 release came out. A lot of them were throwing pretty much this exclusively. Now it's kind of mixed. Some of them throw this, some of them throw the DD3, some of them throw a mixed bag. So we're going to give you a look at what the DD2 can do for you. See if you want to buy it. If you want to buy it, go ahead and hit up Disc Baron. And also, if you want to win this disc, we're going to tell you how to do that at the end of this video. So stay tuned. Let's see how it flies. All right, folks, so we've got a couple throws here lined up for you. First, we're throwing across the field here with the big Z crank, just the Z crank. As you can see in this tailwind, it's a little bit more overstable than I would have liked it to be. Next is the ESP crank. Overcorrection here, kind of pulled it to the right, but you can see it gets a little bit more turn even in this this tailwind and fades pretty back straight to the line of flight. I throw this big Z Force pretty low, but you can see straight, overstable finish. The next is an ESP Force. It's a little bit lighter weight. Kind of sky this one a little bit, but it gets a pretty good flight out of it. Nice and straight. Hooks up at the end and falls to the left. And then the DD2 follows that same line pretty much, kind of high, but you can see it starts fading a lot sooner. It really gets into that left fade quite a bit sooner than the Force does, and it fades more. So we're going to go back across into the headwind now. This Z crank really gets flippy and flips over, but I totally miss it to the left again. You can see it kind of bounce off on the left side of the path there. The ESP crank, I throw a little bit better. It gets a nice turnover line that moves over to the right and then hooks up just a little bit at the end and finishes nice and soft back to the left. The big Z Force, this is one of my favorite discs to throw. It's nice and overstable, dependable left finish, but it gives me just a little bit of forgiveness off the tee, and it doesn't fade super hard, as you can see there. Next is the other ESP crank that I have, a little bit lower line. Tries to get up and maybe give me a little bit of a turn, but really just flips to flat and finishes nice and softly left. I like that shot a lot too. Then we got the DD2. High line, skied it up there, even in the headwind. Nice and stable. Finishes out really hard to the left, even into the headwind. So now we got a tailwind again. ESP crank, a little bit better throw that time. Z crank. I keep mixing them up. Just pretty nice and straight, what you'd expect a crank to do. Now the ESP crank, first run, a little bit lower, a couple of good throws here, finally getting the hang of how to play disc golf. But this one fades out a little bit more to the left. That's pretty standard for those two cranks. Big Z Force does what a Force does, goes straight, nice left finish. ESP Force. Skyball. Spike hyzer, we'll say. There's a small child over there that I almost hit. Oops. Look out. He tries to throw it back to me. And then I force this DD3 or DD2 over on an anhyzer, and you can see it gets that a little bit of a fight left to right, but then just crashes out. So what are my thoughts on the Discmania DD2 distance driver? Well, as you probably saw from a lot of these throws, I don't have the biggest arm in the world. In fact, out of the 5 discs that I threw, this one included, I only bagged that pink crank and that big Z Force because generally speaking, they're the most consistently stable to understable. They give me a good amount of turn that I know I can rely on to be forgiving for me off the tee. I don't have the biggest arm. So aside from those two, which I bag and only throw on certain rare occasions, I pretty much top out at speed 11 discs. And my comfort zone is really that 7, 8 to 10 speed range. So these are all probably more overstable for me than what they would be for just the average player with a little bit higher arm speed, that 900 and above rated player who's out there on, trying to win tournaments and make a name for themselves as an amateur. So for me, this disc is not something that's going to find its way into my bag. It's just a little bit too overstable. Even when I tried to force it over on an anhyzer, as I did on that last throw there, it really just works out way too quick for me, and it dumps way too hard to the left to be something that I would find useful for a max distance driver. The reason that I threw all these, in the last couple of reviews that we've done, I've thrown discs on anhyzer, hyzer, and flat. When I throw distance drivers, I'm only looking for max distance. That's the only reason I'm throwing distance drivers ever on the course. So I was trying to throw all of these flat as far as I could with that 90% to 100% power range without trying to torque them over. And as you can see, some of them behaved a little bit better than others for me, and that's more just my own comfort zone. One of the things that I do like about the Discmania DD2 is that it's very, very shallow rimmed, and it feels very flat and fast in the hand. Now, I'm not usually somebody who likes shallower rim drivers. The other drivers that I throw, like the big Z Force and the Crank, they have a deeper rim than this. But one of the reasons I don't like shallow rim drivers usually is because they feel like they're gonna fall out of my hand. The combination of the rim width and the depth of the rim on this driver seem to fit very, very comfortably, even though it's a speed, I think it's a speed 12. It's definitely a fast disc. So in comparison to some other warp speed drivers, or what I would consider warp speed drivers, it is still really comfortable to hold, and I do feel like I can get a good snap behind it, even if that snap is not translating to the kind of flight path or distance that I'm looking for. So if you're somebody who's finicky about the way that drivers fit in their hands, this is a very comfortable driver to rip. The sparkle plastic might have pertained a little bit to why it was more overstable, but it is a little bit lighter weight. It's penned at 167, but because Disc Baron weighs all of their discs individually, he scaled it. Jake at the store scaled it at 168. So it is a little bit lighter weight. And even so, you could still see that it was very overstable. So even if it was a max weight driver, you can imagine how much more overstable that would have been for somebody with an arm speed like mine. Now, if you're somebody who throws really hard, throws distance drivers a lot, really relies on those distance drivers to get you up the fairway, this is probably going to be something that you want to give a look at, because it does appear to have the controllability. And when you watch pros throw it on tournament coverage and stuff like that, they're relying on this as their kind of speed 12, destroyer, like the new Paul McBeth driver, kind of similar, like where it's got a little bit of turn and a little bit more pronounced fade that beats in over time to become that really workhorse driver that you're putting a lot of different versions of this mold into your bag at a lot of different stability ranges as they beat in. So it does absolutely have the potential to be that workhorse driver for you if you're somebody that throws a little harder. I would assume that the new DD3 that's gotten so much press recently, as it beats in, probably gets a little too flippy for people. This is going to be one of those discs, in my opinion, that's going to beat into that sweet spot, and you're going to want to protect it for forever. So I would still highly recommend this disc to people who throw a little bit harder, who want that max distance, that controllable, overstable, fight the wind with a good S-line. That kind of a shot for you if that's what you're looking for. Check out the DD2. And if you want to buy a DD2, go give Disc Baron a holler, discbaron.com. They're absolutely the best out there. Jake is so great out of the West Michigan area in Grand Rapids, and he will hook you up for sure. Again, huge thanks to him. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn how to win this disc, we're going to be including this in a package with another upcoming disc that we're going to be reviewing from Discmania, a PD, courtesy of Disc Baron. So watch for that video, and once that video has dropped here on this channel, you'll be able to win a 2-pack of this and a Discmania PD, and we'll tell you how to win then. So thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.